I would like to talk with you about the 60s, during the time when I was a young man, growing up in a small town, Birmingham, Alabama. One of its major industries was steel plants. And my father was a steel worker, my mother was a nurse. And for being one of those born in 1956, this was during the era when a lot of struggling was going on with racial violence and so forth. And what was it like growing up in Birmingham, Alabama during the 60s? For being a young, energetic young man, black man, it had its good times and it had its times of confusion. And one of those things was that we couldn't go where we wanted, anywhere we wanted to go. You couldn't go to a restaurant that everybody else was going to. You only had select restaurants that you could go to. That was one of those things that you, as a young American now, don't have to deal with, as I call it, as a blessing. Our schools were separated between blacks and whites. And our school, as they say, we got the textbooks that the white schools had finished with, or the older ones. Those were the textbooks that we had to use. And as for facilities were not as good as the schools on the other side of town. The protest and marching in Alabama. I think I was about 7 years old when my mother put us in the car, and there was a lot of violence going on downtown. It's called the Kelly Ingram Park. And she wanted us to see what was going on in our environment. She took us down there, and we were across the street from the water hose being put on the people, the German shepherds attacking the people and so forth. And I must admit, while I was standing over there, that was a very traumatic experience to see, which my mother was telling us the whole time. This is why I want you to further your education, so that you can teach our young black and white kids the right way. My family's relationship with the bombing victims. The two girls that were killed in the bombing, on the 4th Street bombing, were friends of the family. We knew those two, and they were in a community church not far down the street from us. That sparked a lot of violence when this happened in the city. And we had the NAACP and Martin Luther King, and I can go on and name all the Reverend Lauer and so forth, used to come and visit to try to keep things calm. They integrated the high schools. That was a very trying time, because as being an athlete back then, we wanted to play football. And the only time we could play football, we had to show up early in June to make the team. So when we got word that we were going to be going to the school in our area that was a predominantly white school, my parents were very worried. As for young and energetic, we weren't scared or we weren't nervous. We was just accepting the challenge. I can be honest with you, it was some times there that was kind of scary, because there wasn't any supervision around in the locker rooms. There wasn't supervision around when we first got there before practice. And there's a lot of name calling, there's a lot of show of force. But I made it through, and we all made it through. No one was seriously hurt. A lot of bruised bones and a lot of black eyes, but we made it through. And believe it or not, I can say today that some of those players that we used to fight with and so forth became our best friends. And I thank God that I'm able to be a part of this, where we're all sitting in the classroom together and we're all pursuing a higher education.